first thing I'd say to anyone who's lonely is, number one, you're not alone. This is something that everyone experiences. It's a real human condition. It is inevitable to be lonely. If you're going to live a long life, it's going to happen to you eventually. And it's not your fault. It's just part of it. And the key to understand it is like, okay, well, what do I do about it?
Today, we're exploring a topic that is often neglected when it comes to health discussions, and yet it is vital to our long-term health, and that is social connection. If you're in midlife or wondering how to make friends over 50 or how to build meaningful relationships as you age, then this episode is for you. Social connection is about feeling close and truly belonging, whether it's family, friends, or your wider community. So welcome to the Wellness Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Ros Lindsey. I'm a registered nurse with a Masters of Public Health, and I'm dedicated to helping you prevent chronic disease and live a healthier life for longer. So as we age, making new friends can seem really challenging, but engaging in activities that you love or discovering new ones can lead to new friendships. Whilst it's common to sometimes feel lonely, prolonged and intense feelings of isolation can have serious health impacts. And research shows that people with poor social relationships face a 50% higher risk of premature death. And loneliness is linked to increased risk of heart disease, stroke, depression, anxiety, cognitive decline, and dementia. So this is a serious topic. So stay tuned to find out how you can foster meaningful connections, boost your well-being, and live your best life after 50. I'd like to welcome Andrew Dowling, who is the founder of Stitch, an organisation that helps Australians and now people all over the world find those social connections. So welcome, Andrew, to the Wellness Nurse Podcast.
Thanks, Ros. Great to be here.
So, Andrew, how big a problem is loneliness in Australia, and what is behind the increasing levels of loneliness in our society?
Yeah, Ros, you touched on it so well in your introduction. And just reflecting on this, by the way, I've been doing this for a long time. When I first started Stitch, a bit over 10 years ago, I would get up and talk about the fact that loneliness was this epidemic was coming for us, and it had such a big impact on people's health. It was worse than smoking 15 cigarettes a day, worse than obesity, all of these things you've touched on. And I can remember, I'd stand up in these small little auditoriums presenting about it, and people looking at me like, no, I don't believe that. Loneliness, no, not at all. Fast forward, and then we've gone through the pandemic, and everyone kind of understands it. I mean, whether they saw it on the news or just the general discussion, but they felt it. Everyone got to experience what isolation was like. The impact is huge. It's huge not just on the individual. I mean, you touched on things like increasing chance of dementia, but that you're 24% more likely to go to emergency if you don't have good social connections, 46% more likely to see GPs. There's a massive economic impact on just us as a society because of the burden that preventable healthcare that it places on us. And I would actually go beyond that and say it's more about, it's even beyond that. It's about people who feel lonely, feel disconnected from society. So a lot of our social cohesion starts to fall away. So what it means to be included in being Australian or being in your local community. So there's lots of things that loneliness can drive. And there's a lot of factors that kind of contribute to why it's been increasing. Loneliness has always been there. We've always had to deal with these feelings of if I'm isolated, I should go do something about it. Loneliness is a bit like hunger. It's telling your brain to go and do something. But the problem is, as society has changed, our avenues to do it, to go and address that loneliness have fallen away. A lot of our communities are no longer there, like community structures we've had over time, but also people are living longer than they ever have before. So we're now facing decades, and as we age, our social circles are under pressure to shrink because some people die, people get sick, people relocate, friendships, fall away. So we have these much longer periods of our life where we might be lonely. And that's also supplanted by the fact that there's a lot of studies that show that the increase in the introduction of social media around the turn of the century has been correlated with increased senses of isolation and loneliness as well, because people are spending a lot more time interacting online as opposed to in the real world. And if that's your main way of creating contacts, it doesn't do a great job. It doesn't do a great job of giving people a way to create meaningful connections as opposed to superficial ones. So all of these things together kind of add up to this increase in loneliness and a massive impact on us as a community and as a country and as a planet, really.
It's certainly a big issue, and it's common across all sectors of society as well. I would say that it doesn't matter about your socioeconomic demographic. It touches everybody. What would you say to someone that is sitting at home right now feeling a bit lonely?
Well, I'd say, if they're over 50, I'd probably say, come and join Stitch. Obviously, that's my glib answer. And actually, this applies to young people as well. People are probably interested to note that people in their 20s feel loneliness more acutely today than people as they age. And so it's a very lonely and isolating time for many of them, which is a real change. But no, so the thing about loneliness is, one problem is that when we feel lonely, we react in ways, and this is very well studied, often we adopt behaviours that make us more likely to stay lonely. So people are more likely to retreat because they start to feel there's something wrong with me. People don't like me, or I'm alone, and there's a reason for that. What could the reason be? Well, it's me. So they tend to retreat. They tend to find their brain, and you can see this on brain scans, when they do go to an environment where they go to meet new people, and there's a crowd of people that seem to know each other, the brain even more acutely lights up to say, danger, danger, run away. There's evolutionary reasons for this, but people who are lonely tend to actually retreat, and that can reinforce their loneliness. So the first thing I'd say to anyone who's lonely is, number one, you're not alone. This is something that everyone experiences. It's a real human condition. It is inevitable to be lonely. If you're going to live a long life, it's going to happen to you eventually, and it's not your fault. It's just part of it. And the key to understand it is like, okay, well, what do I do about it? There are things that I can do, and they take time. They mean getting out of your comfort zone, but they are so rewarding. And so I would encourage them to think about it's a preventable thing. It can't be solved overnight. It's not like I go out on the street and I find a cure for loneliness like that. You actually have to get involved, but that's the great thing. By getting involved, you realise that people value you. You are, everyone out there, everyone who's listening to this I've found this on Stitch. You scratch the surface beneath almost anyone, you find someone who's interesting and valuable and great. And so someone who's lonely might be feeling a bit low. Just remember, you don't need to feel that way, and there are things you can do about it, but it might take some time.
I absolutely love everything you've said there. I just want to touch on one thing you said, that it can form a little bit of a cycle. So it perpetuates. If we feel lonely, we're less likely to reach out. But if you can perceive that as just a signal that you need to reach out at that point, and you can prevent that loneliness from getting worse, to prevent that spiral of the cycle, we can just catch ourselves. And having experienced that loneliness myself, in fact, I've never really felt this loneliness, but many people can identify with, after a marriage breakup, which is my situation, there's a new level of loneliness that we haven't experienced before, and it's quite easy to retreat. But it is at that point, and because I am so aware of the power of prevention, I am actively seeking those engagements. So I would encourage anyone who's listening, who is in a similar situation, to, rather than, feel those feelings of loneliness, and retreat, to actually just perceive it as a signal and have courage. And as Andrew said, when we scratch the surface, everybody is interesting. So
To
I'd
build on that,
encourage
actually,
people.
Ros, so one thing that we discovered along the journey with Stitch is it's not just about giving people a friend or, in some cases, a new romantic partner, because the way that we interact when we're thinking, I'm here to find a friend, like I just want to meet that one person. It puts a lot of pressure onto you judging other people and so on. We discovered that actually what helped us unlock this sense of connecting with people is being part of a community. So I'd encourage people to look for community first. Like where can I go where I'm welcomed and I get to do the things I enjoy? Because if you put yourself into this idea that I've got to have courage and whatever, no, you don't. It's actually easier than you think. Because people say, well, how do I meet this new person? They go, don't stress about that. You're focusing on the wrong things. Focus on getting involved and doing something. And what we really found helpful was to help people understand it's a two-way street. If you're going to end up having a connection with someone who enriches your life, you by definition are going to do that for them. And so we really make a point to help people understand they are the solution to someone else's loneliness. So it's not just about them. Them getting out and getting engaged can really help others. And so we found a lot of particularly our shy members, when they first join, might say, well, Andrew, I'm not really an organizer. I just want to come along to something and I'm not sure how to meet people. And almost the most powerful thing we can do is to help them understand that they can be this architect of improving other people's lives by creating social connections and opening the door there. And once they realize that they're performing a role for others rather than just thinking about what others can do for them, it becomes a lot easier. People go, oh, okay, I'm doing good just by showing up and doing this thing rather than I'm just in it for me. And that's what community is all about.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Actually, everything is better when we take our eyes off ourselves and we look outward.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's true.
Yeah. So before we dive deeper into Stitch and social connection, it's important to remember that social connection is actually one of the key pillars of lifestyle medicine. And so alongside social connection, there's movement, nutrition, sleep, stress management, and avoiding risky substances. And so I just wanted to highlight for any listeners that are keen to explore preventive health further, I have developed an online course and it covers social connection as well as the other topics of nutrition and sleep and stress management, how to avoid risky substances, all those sorts of things. So if you are interested in more, go to roslindsey.com/wellness. So, Andrew, was there a pivotal moment in your own life that led you to create Stitch? And from your own experience personally, now through Stitch, what hope can you provide for older Australians that new friendships and new activities are absolutely possible for them?
Yeah. Well, I guess a couple of things. My journey to Stitch, I'd done a master's degree in social enterprise, which is the idea of building businesses that make the world a better place somehow. And I'd done another business beforehand, which then introduced me to the studies, which were well proven at the time about the impact of loneliness on health. And I was like, how do people not know about this? Which is why I started Stitch. But that wasn't really, when I think about the aha moment for me, it wasn't until we got started, because we were thinking, well, what could technology do to help people discover friends and so on? How could we use technology in a way that it's different from the way all the other sites work out there? And it's important to note, like we end up with a model where our community itself is a not-for-profit charity, because we're built around this idea of improving lives. We had our very first Stitch from the day we launched. We started here in Australia, but we had people joining from all over the world. And after we'd been going a few years, we had a get-together in Monterey in California. We had people flew in from Australia, from all over the US, even from someone came from Japan. And that was a great experience of getting people together to kind of celebrate what we were working on. And we just started to kind of get our head around this idea of community being really important. And it was not just about, okay, find a friend, but but do it in the context of a community where you can all contribute to the well-being of other people, because that's what communities do. And at the time I was going through, well, it wasn't me, but it was a very difficult time for me because my son had been experiencing severe depression, and as a teenager had tried to take his own life. And I'd gone through we actually thought he succeeded at one point, and we were really struggling with it, and I'd committed to go over to this thing. He was safe, but I was obviously very distressed, and I found it very hard to be this happy person with a crowd of 70 people when I had this going on in my own life. And one of the things that we did there was a 4-day kind of retreat, and we did a bunch of different activities, and one of them was a walk, and I was on a walk in the National Forest with 4 female members, and I just couldn't bottle up anymore. I just had to come out. So I said it, and up until this point, this was the first people I'd told about what we were going through. To my utter dismay, 4 of the 5 people had direct personal experience with something similar, either a child or a sibling who had actually successfully ended their own life, or they all had perspectives, and it was so freeing and so supportive to understand that, number one, you can't live till you're 50 without some bad things happening. But number 2, having people who are willing in your life to support you and help you was really, really key. It really was like a light bulb where I went, this is more than just finding a best friend or finding that, I've lost my husband, I want to know. It's actually being part of something where we all look out for each other. And that gave me a lot of the support I got from the members on that walk, and subsequently have buoyed me through all sorts of tough times. Running Stitch has been challenging because we had COVID, and we lost all of our funding during COVID because all we did was get people together in person. And you can't do that during lockdown. So we've had lots of tough times, but it's been the members in the community, and I'm probably the most blessed person on Stitch because I've got such a wide community. I've got so many people and who keep telling me how much it's changed their lives and so on. But that was the aha moment, the idea that if you can open the door for people to be kind to each other, to support each other, and we are evolved as a species to be empathetic if we're given the right circumstances. I think we can do that. I think we can create a community where that happens, and that was a really important moment for me. It's really helped us ever since.
Well, Andrew, thank you for sharing that incredibly powerful and devastating story. But the upside is, thankfully, your son is alive, and you have not only joined a community where you are walking alongside people, all supporting each other, but you are touching so many thousands of lives as people who are on the outskirts hear this story and might come into community themselves. So thank you. Thank you for your story.
Yeah, and I probably wouldn't share it. I should have said he's doing great now. In fact, I wish, but reflecting on some of the stuff that he's gone through, I kind of wish I had, and maybe this will happen in the future, a Stitch for younger people, because that sense of belonging and the stuff that we all now, if you're a Stitch member and you get active in the community, you take for granted that you've got this enormous family around the world. And the younger generation doesn't have that to the same degree. It's really a struggle. So, but no, he's doing really, really well, and he's seen the journey too in Stitch, and so that's been really helpful in its own way.
So you're modelling that for him as well. Yeah,
I'd like to think so. Yeah.
I think for young people, the apps for connection are usually romance based or sex based, but this is really unique. It is friendship based, and I love that. And I think Stitch really stands out as a leading platform for social connection for adults over 50. And I'm wondering about what other unique features make it so effective.
Throughout the last rise of the internet, there've been a bunch of sites that are focused on friendship. So it's not unique in that sense. But I think one of my favourite phrases is friendships are formed, not found. Same is true for relationships. You don't just meet someone and go, you are now my best friend. It just doesn't happen. You do it by repeated actions, shared experiences, constantly building things, right? And so a lot of the sites in the past were looking at okay, well, how do I list people? And these are their interests, and how do I contact them? And they might be my friend. You're like, okay, that's like you're shopping for a friend. And that's just not how the world works. The world works by, yeah, I mean, it'll be great. Go down to the shops, get a new friend. No,
That's
it's
it.
actually much more about it. That's just why it's hard. Like I talked about getting out of your comfort zone. You have to put the work in. You've got to go and go to these things. So what we learnt with Stitch is, number one, you have to get people to take that step and come along, but they've got to feel welcome. So from day one, realized we had to create, it's not just about a website. It's actually about a community, and a community has a set of values and it stands for something. And so we have a set of behaviors that everyone is expected to basically comply with, and it's being kind, being welcoming, being supportive, being friendly, being respectful, all the things that actually go to create good communities. And we say, well, guess what? Well, let's bring that thinking to a community that starts online, but actually is much more about the real world. And so once you do that, and the welcoming part's really important, because then we inspire existing members to welcome the new members in, to make sure they're looked after, and you inculate this idea that it's about the people. So that what really is magical about Stitch, and this is why I'm so proud of it, because I feel like I haven't created it. We've created the opportunity for people to show how great they can be, and then they've rewarded me by being great. Not everyone's great. We have to spend a lot of time on making sure there's no scammers and getting rid of people who might be joining for the wrong reasons. And safety is a big issue. And we've got females who might have been members of domestic violence, and we've got to protect them. And like, there's so many things that we have to do. But the bad elements are such a small part of society. They can ruin it for everyone. But if you can get rid of them and give people the chance to be kind to each other, it's incredible. Guess what? People are really nice. Who would have thought it?
Yeah.
And so that's really rewarding for me, because I'm probably the most optimistic person on the planet, because I get to see people can be good. People are nice. You just have to engineer it in a way that they recognize that person over there who I don't know, they could be, that's someone I need to care about. And so getting people to care about complete strangers is, I think, part of the magic of Stitch. And it's created a lot of really, really cool outcomes as a result.
I know you've incorporated a lot of safety features within Stitch. Can you tell me about just some of those? So for somebody at home listening, it can be intimidating. You do feel vulnerable. You don't want to be scammed. What are the safety systems that you've put in place to protect us?
Yeah. So yes, like scamming is such a big issue, and it's getting worse. The rise of AI makes it easier for scammers to use these technologies to create, a fake profile, or to write an email that's more convincing. So, we've all had those scam emails in the past, and you can recognize them a mile away. And we've got members who say to me, Andrew, I can recognize the scammers, because they all come from other sites, and they say it's terrible. You can't believe how many. Someone yesterday told me 50% of the people she met on another site were scammers. And I'm like, wow. And so, but she was confident she could recognize them. And I'm saying, look, be careful. Don't be so overconfident, because the scammers get to use AI now, and they can be really convincing. So we do a couple of things that help. We have a verification process to verify that people are real. We use a lot of stuff in the back end to monitor the way people behave, the way they interact. And one thing that we have as an advantage, because we're a community, and so much of Stitch, like if I'm in Brisbane or Sydney or wherever, I just come along to events and activities. Scammers don't do that. Scammers, typically they're in other countries, fake profiles. They are protected because they're using a fake profile. The last thing they want to do is expose themselves. Our police can't go after them typically, because it's just not possible. Whereas they turn up at an in-person event, that is possible. So first of all, you're in a community that keeps you safe just by virtue of being a community. But we have a range of things that, over and above that, we get concerned about not just scammers, but what if you have someone who joins Stitch and just behaves in a way that makes people feel unsafe, or invades your personal space, or, and just, make sexual comments. We have no tolerance for any of that sort of stuff. We build a system where our members can flag all sorts of behaviors, not just the worst of the worst, like the scammers and so on, but even just this behavior that we would like to discourage in the community, and that you won't be thrown out straight away. But if you do enough of it, then you're going to get a warning and removed. Well, think about what communities used to work around, where it was very much local. And if you saw someone behaving in a way that was suspicious in your really, really tight local community, people look out for each other. And we say, well, how do we use that same mentality to a much larger scale? And we just do a lot of those sorts of things. So members get to ask to rate their interaction with other members. They can flag all sorts of behaviour for us, and we've just this algorithm, billions of data points that allow us to identify very quickly someone who might not fit the model of who should be in Stitch. And so I spend much more time on scammers. We tend to get to be able to recognise them immediately because they're fake profiles. It's much more challenging are the ones who are real people, but still might behave in ways that aren't contributing positively to the well-being of other members. And so we just use our platform to help us identify those people and get rid of them. One thing that we do on Stitch is the more you contribute positively to the well-being of others, the more you get to do in the community. So you get to send more messages and do more things because you've shown yourself to be trusted and kind and welcoming. Whereas if you haven't established that trust yet, we don't let you do that. So that kind of protects our members as well.
That's good. So there's sort of a reward for that safe interaction, really. You get to interact more. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's really reassuring. So if you're out there listening and you're hesitating, there are a lot of systems that have been put in place. Of course, it's not 100%, safety proof because we're interacting with real people. So you can always just have your own spider alert going and do your own homework.
Yeah, I mean, I would caution people to, certainly Stitch is different. In the real world, be suspicious. Be suspicious. On Stitch, we've been running for 11 years. We have never had a single person scammed through Stitch. I touch wood there because I know it's going to happen one day, but we do a lot to protect people. And sometimes people are so suspicious because their experiences outside that it takes them longer to then trust others. And I say, well, actually, come along to an event activity, meet people, and you'll see that everyone's kind of a little bit like you.
Thank you. Well, I love that you recognise the power of prevention and taking action before loneliness gets worse. And I'm thinking of Christmas coming up and Christmas being a time when sometimes even hidden loneliness can sort of come to the surface a bit because it's a time when and now even more so with social media, we're seeing pictures of families coming together and friends coming together. Well, what if we haven't got those friendship groups now? Here we are, it's mid-October. There's still time to put some strategies in place to really make this Christmas an enjoyable one and a less lonely one for yourself and for others. What's the role of Stitch during this time?
So for our members who are part of the community already, many of them don't have family for whatever reason. Stitch events and activities are a big part of how they spend their time through the Christmas and New Year time, and that's great. We always get a big boost in sign-ups in January because people who've gone through that process of yet another holiday period where I just feel pretty crummy and I'm never going to do that again. I'm finally going to get off my backside and do something. So suddenly we get and I always go, if only you joined earlier, and then you could come along because, it can be a bit daunting and the earlier you do it, the better. The Christmas events are great because a lot of them are big celebration events, stuff like that. But sometimes it's really nice to start earlier with you come along to a small coffee or a walk or the way Stitch works is anyone can suggest anything that they'd like to do and you just go and do it. I went out hip-hop dancing recently. So, like it's anything you like.
Yeah.
But, and by the way, with 70-year-old members in their mid-70s, so it's a real mix. But I say the role that we see Stitch is, and I think you touched on it in your question, which is it's not just address your loneliness, but you can help other people. So there are members on Stitch who are suggesting activities, and they are going to enjoy themselves much more if people sign up and come along.
Yeah.
I always thank people for coming because I've had the experience in the early days of Stitch of posting an activity. This is when I was in America, and no one showing up. This is very, very early days, and it feels pretty crummy. So when people show up, they have enriched my life no end. So I would just say to people, if they're thinking about it, there are people out there today who would love you to come along. Don't be thinking about yourself, but think about what you could do to others just by coming along to an event activity. But again, the sooner you do it before the Christmas craziness kicks off, the better. But you can come anytime.
And also for Australia's multicultural seniors, they've got extra challenges. If English is not their first language or they're just settling in to Australia, how does Stitch champion inclusivity for older adults from varied backgrounds?
Yeah, it's a good point. And I would love to. We're not at the point yet where we have translated the website into a gazillion different languages, partially because it's not just about the website, but it's about how we provide support. Although we can now do, this is where AI can help. We can translate, we can answer questions in different languages as well. So people who've got questions about how it works, we can easily do that. And they can sign up and find people who have interest in or common areas. So on Stitch, you can join in your area and search for people who might, be a Spanish speaker or come from a different background and so on. But we have events in different areas where people will organise, and actually language is one that often shows up. But one thing I've really liked is not just about meeting people who've got the same cultural background, but actually it's the difference. It's the celebration difference. So one thing that we see a lot of, and I didn't think of bringing some photos to share, but of our events in Sydney in particular, or in Australia in general, they're so multicultural. It's unbelievable. Australia is such a multicultural country. Yes. And a lot of the members will suggest something that let's do like a walking tour through Auburn in Sydney to have some Turkish food, and so there's that interaction to share cultures, which is really, really cool. And I love seeing that part of who we are as Australians come to the fore, because it's that people reach out to say, well, no, you're one of us too. It's not about different cliques and different groups, although that can happen. If you want to have a group for just speaking Spanish, for example, that's totally fine. But I love seeing the way that people across those cultural boundaries just get on and look after each other. It's really, really cool.
Absolutely. We all bring something unique, and it's when we come together and celebrate those differences that makes it fun. Can you think of a case study or an example of a person that this has turned their life around for them? They were the ones that were sitting at home on their own, and now they're not. They've connected, they're giving out. Things are very different for their life now. Have you got any examples that you can speak to?
There's so many. The problem with this is there's so many. We've got over 300,000 members worldwide, and people will write in and just say, it's literally saved me or saved my life. Or in fact, I think we had a review just yesterday that said it literally changed my life. So lots and lots of different stories. The one that sticks in my mind it's on our YouTube channel, an interview I did with a woman in Fresno, actually. And she was telling me, I really love discovering that stuff's happening in the community that I had no idea about. Because on Stitch, you can connect with people through in-person activities, but we also have virtual activities, because some people they face chronic pain or mobility issues, or they live in remote areas. So it's about all of the ways that you can connect, discussion forums and so on, interest groups. But so I run these interviews with people, a bit like the one we're doing right now, just to tell us your story. And I remember her name's Kim, and we didn't have a community in Fresno at the time. She's been a member for many years now, but she was explaining to me. She was telling me her story. And the reason I'd reached out to her was because she was really active in the community and running lots of events and so on. But then I got her on this video, and she told me her life story, and everyone's free to check out our YouTube channel and listen to it. She talked about how such a shy, withdrawn, isolated, she would speak to nobody. She would kind of just go to do the shopping, and that days on end not speaking to anyone. And she would never dream of having these like friends, and she was really stuck. And she kind of talked about this journey where she just took these tiny little baby steps on, well, I'm just going to try this. And then I started chatting online, and then I went to the events, and then I think I told her on the call, she'd been to something like an average of 4 activities per week over an entire year. And they travel to meet each other, and they've got these really, really extraordinarily close friendships. And she said, it just transformed not just how lonely I felt, but what we see again and again and again is people tell us it changed who they felt they were. I thought I was this sort of person. And then I came to realize, no, there's so much more to me than that. So a lot of people tell us that being part of the community really increases their confidence because I guess they feel that they're welcome no matter what they do and they can have an impact on others and so on. And you see them kind of just blossom. And you go, this is later in life. People in their 50s, 60s, 70s telling me that I never thought I was going to become this person, but now I am. Like, that is really, really cool. If there's one thing that makes me happiest on Stitches, I think about that journey for all these people who thought, in fact, I just did this trip in the US. We had our very first big Stitch trip for the community down the west coast of the US, from Seattle to Portland to San Francisco. And we had community events in each area because we've got communities there, even in some of the small towns in Oregon. And then people flew for this trip. We're on a bus for the group who were traveling from Australia and the UK and the US. And one of the gentlemen from South Australia said to me, and I actually did a video interview with him, which we're editing at the moment, but he said, Andrew, I thought when he got divorced, he thought life has passed him by. That was it. That was pretty much it from now on. He was going to sit at home and watch TV. And he said, and a really cool thing, and this is in a tiny town called Strathalbyn in South Australia, so it's not even a major community, but he said, I feel now happier than being divorced. And he said, I feel like I wouldn't go back to that time. I thought it had been the end of, and his wife had walked out on me, and he said, I'm happier now. I feel more valued for who I am. These are real, authentic connections, not just, I was clinging to something that actually wasn't making me happy. I'm actually really happy, and I just feel so good about life. He's signed up to do the next trip with us in Ireland next year already, which is really cool. And that was really what he doesn't realize. That's a tiny Strathalbyn. We haven't only even just getting started there. Once he gets to experience like the full what it's like in a really active community as it grows, it's going to blow him away. So those stories really, really make me feel happy.
Oh my gosh, I love that story. It's a life transformed. He has completely transformed his life through social connection. And then the flow-on effect. I mean, maybe he's moving more as well. Maybe his eating habits have changed. Everything can change. And that's what makes my heart sing. And I'm thinking that's what gets you out of bed in the morning. People who are now experiencing the joy in their life that they didn't have before.
Yeah. And you talk
incredible.
About prevention. I mean, that's we did some studies when people get in a community where it's active and they get actively engaged. We have a 63% reduction in sense of loneliness and isolation. There's 5 times more social. There's all these stats. Their mental health indicators and their physical health indicators improve, but they're 40% more likely to be physically active as well. So it does. You've got a reason to get out of the house and go and do something. And guess what? That's what happens. So I'm such a big fan of everything you're espousing because it's part of prevention. And prevention it's not just one thing, it's all these things together. But we find that you're more likely to keep on doing those things if you've got people to do them with, rather than just go to the gym and be lonely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's actually what it's all about. You're with other people that enjoy doing similar activities, or you're learning new activities. And it flows on. I'm thinking of all of these things that I'm involved in prevention. Social connection, yes, is one thing, but movement. I've become involved in a sport I'd never even heard of, pickleball, before.
Yeah, of course. Love it. Pickleball.
And now, I know. And now it's the social connection. And just simply because I enjoy the game that I'm getting out there and doing it. And they're all interrelated. One thing leads to another. And again, I'm just going to give a plug for this online course, because if you don't know where to start, and it might not even be social connection for you because you're not sleeping well and you're absolutely exhausted. So go to roslindsey.com/wellness, and it looks at all of these things that you can build into your life, and you can prevent loneliness and get your life back on track. So, Andrew, for listeners that are keen to take action, whether they're lonely themselves or they're supporting somebody at risk, what real-world steps would you recommend right now to nurture that mental fitness, to spark friendships, and to counteract loneliness?
Well, number one, sounds like they should do your online course. And if they're over 50, join Stitch. I think we've covered a lot of these things along the way. First of all, it's getting your headspace right, getting the mindset. There is a lot of hope.
Mm.
It's not only am I trying to recreate what you once had, in some cases, you might actually find happiness that you never even have known in terms of like this deep self-satisfaction about belonging and the sort of things. You've got so much of your life to live and you might want to fill it with happiness and being part of something. I say first start with that kind of mental framing of like, yeah, it's possible. And I'm not on a hunt for what I just get out of it, but maybe I've got to be prepared to put in a little bit. And while that sounds, maybe it sounds daunting, it actually makes it easier because people find it easy to go, well, I'm here to help someone rather than I'm here to impress someone, or I'm here to, well, are they going to like me? You go, no, just be you and you'll be able to build those friendships. And then it's just a matter of doing it. Because, as I said before, friendships are formed, not found. So you have to do it repeatedly. So joining something where there's a regular thing is really good. You mentioned pickleball, but joining anything, and I'm always going to say Stitch because we will have any activity you might like pickleball one day and then the opera the next and then go out dancing. And so, but that's the idea. Join something, be part of something, but do it regularly and it will gradually happen. But you've got to put yourself out there and just remember you are really important in someone else's life that you haven't even met them yet. Please do it for them and then you'll get the benefit as well.
How do they find Stitch? Where do they go?
Stitch? So our website is stitch.net. They can just Google Stitch Companionship or Stitch Community. There's an app on the Apple Store or on the Google Play Store, but just go to the website, tell you all about it. We're very proud. We won a United Nations award for our impact on the wellbeing of our members last year.
Congratulations. That is incredible. Love that.
Just check it out. They'll find the links there about watching lots of videos of me blather on about what people are like, but it'll give them an insight to everything. But it's free to join. We do offer more to members. We've got a membership plan, but we don't want anyone to miss out. So one of the things that we do with the charity is we have assistance programs for people who face financial difficulties. We've got a free membership, so you can actually get a limited taste of the community. We don't take government funding. We rely on our memberships to keep ourselves going because that way we work in the interests of the people who are paying the bills, i.e. the members. So it's a grassroots organisation. So we do ask people, once they see what we're doing, they understand the impact we're having, we want them to support us. In fact, one of my most delightful things happened last week was I got an email from a lawyer in the US, which I thought was a scam at first. Turned out one of our members, long-time members, has made a bequest to Stitch in her will. So many of our members find that it's made such a big impact on their lives that they really want to help support the community to help others. And we'll often say, look, it's not about the money. Just the main thing is just bring yourself. If you can come along and get engaged, you're already doing a gift to the community. Anything else above that is just gravy.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for joining me on this discussion today. It's really
Thanks for having me.
Genuinely lovely to meet you. And I want to congratulate you because you started this 10 years ago, and when people didn't see, people are starting to see now because the research is out about the risks associated with loneliness. But you kept at it when you didn't have that support, and you've grown something truly wonderful, and that is saving lives. And congratulations, and I look forward to being part of it.
Thanks, Ros. It was a real delight.
Thank you. And just as a very quick disclaimer, the information discussed in this podcast is intended for general informational purposes only and should not obviously be taken as medical or psychological advice. Although I'm a registered nurse, the content shared today reflects personal opinions and the lived experiences of our guests and myself, and it's not intended to diagnose or treat or replace consultation with your healthcare professional. So if you or someone that you know is struggling with loneliness or mental health concerns, please seek support from a qualified health provider or reach out to your local support services or ring Lifeline on 13 11 14. But thank you all so much for listening today. Tune in, subscribe to The Wellness Nurse. You get so many tips from the experts, from fellow Australians who are living a journey of trying to improve their health. And share this podcast with people that you love and care for. Thank you. See you next time.